welcome to the show. Now, a little while ago, Fujimi returned to Forza Motorsport. Now, truthfully, I don't really care all that much. While it is a cool enough venue and everything, it is never going to be a track that I am going to use for very much, because it's, well, not really a race circuit. However, it does have one particular use that, well, you can't really do very many places, and that because this track is so steep and twisting in various parts. Well, you can do soapbox racing, so that is what we were going to do. Now, the way this works, picked a section of circuit. What you do is you hold in the clutch, you rev the engine, and let the cars roll. We're not going to be using any power, just gravity to get the vehicles down here in this knockout tournament style. We were using A-class cars, and what sort of vehicles you go for is an interesting option. I have gone for a big Cadillac. I was up against Rhett in this first round in their BMW. My hope was to go for a relatively large, relatively heavy car with massive tyres, because this Cadillac gets a silly wide body kit on it, and hope that momentum was going to be my friend pretty much in this, and we're off to a pretty solid start. Now, picking a route for Soapbox was a little bit more challenging. I picked this section of circuit because it is not just flat out down here. You are going to have to brake. Momentum is very, very important with these cars, and making sure you carry speed through these corners. You want to be carrying a lot, but you don't want to be hitting the walls, so you are going to have to use the brakes a little bit to try and get things right. We were off to a solid start with the Cadillac as we head into the tunnel. Now, there's little brakings in the earlier part of the course. These tunnels are a good opportunity to pick up some speed. Could maybe be a little bit more brave through this section as you kind of transition between the two tunnels. The next corner is one of the most critical on the circuit. It is a tight hairpin, so you're going to have to shrug off speed. You don't want to shrug off any more speed than you absolutely have to, because, well, every mile an hour helps with this challenge. As you can see, you go pretty slowly, and it's not a steep sort of decline on the exit, so you really need every mile an hour you can, and any little errors are going to show up in that particular corner. You can then get the vehicles rolling, pick up a little bit more speed through this next section, and as we can see, we've pulled a nice little gap back to the BMW. Still one more very critical corner to go. This next hairpin, again, you want to carry speed through here, but you don't want to run out too wide and brush the wall. Very, very easy place to make a mistake. Hit that wall on the outside again, lose a lot of momentum, can be in a lot of trouble because the rest of the course is relatively straightforward. This hairpin a bit wider, you can kind of fling the cars through here and, yeah, carry momentum on the exit. In the end, unless I'd had a terrible, I say final corner, it's not quite final corner, but final slow corner, we can now just pick up speed all the way to the finish line. The BMW is not going to be close enough to challenge the Cadillac or cause any issues for my Caddy as we will cross the line. That bridge is the finish line for us, and we will take a victory. We will progress into the next round. So, we would then have, up next, Longbow in the Porsche versus Coffee driving the Hyundai. Now, there will be no sound for these, because, well, to get this footage, I am spectating the cars, and the problem is Forza doesn't know what to do with the audio because it doesn't expect you to do this. So all you get is screeching tyres and engines at the rev limit the whole way down, which is, of course, not what's actually happening, but the game doesn't quite know how to represent what we are doing. So, yeah, there's going to be no game audio for the runs that I am not physically doing. That's just the way it is. Either way, the Porsche was off to a pretty good start. I mean, these cars, so well, me and Rhett were a little bit more similar in terms of approach. Coffee's approach was to go for the sort of small and agile Hyundai. Longbow was to go for the very grippy Porsche. I did have a look at trying to use the replay cameras. I filmed some of this run with it, opted against it. Again, what we're doing here, A, we were going the reverse direction to the way we were supposed to be going around the track, which I think might have confused the replay cameras a little bit. And B, we're going a lot slower, and the replay cameras get a bit jittery a lot of the time, so I did end up giving up using the replay camera, because in real life, I'm better with a steady camera kind of thing than some of these are. I don't know why it's so shaky. Either way, in this run, Longbo got out to a decent lead early on with the Porsche, and in the end was not particularly troubled in this first round. The Porsche was the way to go. In fact, Longbo got a little bit too far along the course, but the Porsche was the way to go, and the Porsche, with all of its grip, would be through into the next round. Up next, we would have, I say, more similar competitors. We would have Mika driving, or I say driving, I guess, coasting in the MX-5. Blakey was in the Pantera as we head off the start line into this first sequence of corners. There's potential for, let's say, a little advantage if you're on the right-hand side off the start line. You do get to the inside. Dare I say, it's difficult to tell. Overtaking is tough around here, but it is not impossible to do. There are definite places where if you can get a good run, you can go for an overtake, as Mika thinks about it. So close to getting the car to the inside. In the end, had to back out of it. Again, any collisions are going to really screw you over. You're going to use a lot of time. Blakey runs a little bit deep. This section here, again, you want to carry a lot of speed. You want to carry as much speed as you can through the corners, but you do also need to be able to get a good exit from these turns, and being a soapbox race is very, very difficult to pick up speed if you've got things a little bit wrong. Mika is looking for a better run through here, which they managed to get. The Pantera was just a little bit tight on the inside through there and just not quite as fast in the exit. The Mazda is going to have a go to the inside as we head out of the tunnels. They runs a little bit deep, clonks the wall, ends up across in front of the Pantera. That is unfortunately one of the things that can happen. It has got the Mazda into the lead of the race, but now we are coming up to one of the two most critical corners on the circuit. Blakey's looking for a much later turning point through here, trying to carry speed with that Pantera, which kind of works. So the Mazda did quite well actually on the lower line, a more tighter line on the way into that corner, and the MX-5 will continue to lead the way. We've still got one more big hairpin coming up as we sweep through this next section. The Pantera's actually got a little bit more speed through here, heading in towards this next hairpin. Blakey is going for a much, much wider line than the MX-5, a much later turn-in. The Mazda has carried a bit too much speed on the way in, and that'll often compromise you on the way out. And sure enough, it is a fairly straightforward cutback for Blakey, for the Pantera there to move up into the lead. Yeah, I mean, Mika didn't hit the wall on that one on the outside, which is very easy to do, but yeah, on that tighter line, if you carry too much speed, it's very difficult to... Once you've committed to the corner, it's so difficult to rectify, and if you have carried too much speed on the way in, you're going to be in trouble, and there's nothing the Mazda can do through this section. It will be Blakey that is going to make it through to the next round. The Mazda can finish backwards, but it will have to go into the spanner final. Up next, we have some big cars for this Rusky in the Camaro, in the sort of wide-body Camaro. Gliska driving the Camry. Again, both of these have got a little bit more on the route. I think my Cadillac was the heaviest of cars that we ran down this one. The Camry off to a slightly better start through all of this, but I say the start isn't the be-all and end-all of this. We've had some of these tournaments where they're very, very difficult to pass on. And while this is not the easiest to overtake by any stretch of the imagination, as we've seen, it is definitely doable if you can get a good run. This corner coming up here is possibly where you need to have a good run, and Rusky's a little bit too tight on the way, and you can see just from not quite being in the right place how much a gain can happen as you go through the next corner, and this time it's Gliska that's ran in too deep. It was a little wide on the exit. Camaro can reel back in, but not close enough to do anything. The Camry actually able to pick up some fairly decent speed in a couple of places. Camaro has pushed it a little bit too hard going through there, just starting to run out of grip on the outside of the corner. Never so helpful as we go into the tunnels, and the Toyota is able to start pulling a nice bit of lead, although the Camaro good through this changeover point. Can now, again, it ebbs and flows in this one. Everything does happen rather slow motion when you are dealing with just gravity power and the like. Into the first of the hairpins we go. Rusky very, very late on the brakes down there. Makes it work though, carries good speed despite being very late on the brakes. Does get the car turned, has got a good run here on the exit. However, is it going to be enough to make a move stick on the Camry? No, not quite. The Toyota is going to stay ahead. You've not quite got any opportunities for a way past in this, but still the Camaro's got a good run and is looking to find a way past. Is to the outside of the hairpin, as we've seen though, that's not necessarily the worst place to be in all of this. The Camry goes defensive, or a bit more defensive through here once more. The Camaro's got a good run on the exit, and we are side by side. It's not at incredibly high speeds, but it is very close. But this is a tough corner to try and go around the outside. Rusky goes to try and duck to the inside, maybe scrapes the wall a little bit through there, and if you end up just losing that sort of fraction of a mile an hour, that can be critical as we roll towards the next couple of corners. The Camry is just about ahead, and the Camaro's not able to make the most. This is like a little bit of a dip to the inside. The Camaro not able to get there, and it is going to be the Toyota of Gliska that'll make it through to the next round. Rusky tried everything after a not great start for the Camaro. Came very good in the latter half, just could not quite make any of the moves stick. Our final heat, that would see Impega in the Alfa Romeo Giulia, Stevie in the Firebird, and it is the Alfa Romeo that is going to lead off the start line. Getting these cars to launch is a bit fiddly. Again, what we're trying to get the game to do, it does not necessarily want us to be doing or is not expecting us to be doing this. Either way, it's a good attempt from Stevie to get the vehicle to the inside. The problem is you're on a tight line through there and you just cannot quite carry the speed to get the pass complete. Again, Stevie is having a look to the inside. It's not quite the room for the pass. This next corner is a slightly tighter one. Impega maybe a little compromised on the way in, having been battling with the Firebird. With the Pontiac, with relatively... it got compromised in a couple of places, but has managed to pick up pretty good speed through the next section. Thinks about getting to the inside. You can look to the inside on this corner, but then you've got this turn that can get you in trouble if you're too tight through there, and Stevie has had to back off, and Impega will live to fight another day as we run through the tunnel. This section here, you need a small tap on the brakes to hit most of the car. Some probably can do it without, but yeah, again, you really just do not want to hit the wall on the outside, as we have seen a few cars get in trouble with as we barrel towards the hairpin. They're both quite late on the brakes. Stevie a little bit braver and has got the front end to turn, has got the front end to get underneath that Alfa Romeo, and with just better sort of exit speed, if you like. Honestly, it just could get turned better than the Alfa Romeo, and that is very, very useful indeed at the hairpin. It's going to be one of the main overtaking opportunities you see as the Firebird aims to pull away a little bit more. And yeah, any like 1 mile an hour extra speed on the exit of that corner is so important, because you don't really pick up too much speed for a little while. Impega going for a wider line, but it's a little bit too wider a line through there. Again, having to slow down a little bit too much, and that is going to drop the Alfa Romeo back. And by the time we get to, I say, the bottom of the course, there was not much more the Alfa Romeo could do, and it would be Stevie who would go on to take victory in this round. Will progress. It's not all over, though, of course, for the Alfa Romeo. We've got to have a spanner final going on. So the 5 cars that did not make it through their qualifying heats, they are all going to go together, which is likely to be chaos. Because more cars on the road means certainly if you don't get a great start, you are going to have more difficulties in having to battle past everything. It is a good start from the Alfa Romeo in this one. It's going to go side by side with the Camaro. We know the Camaro is pretty good when it gets to the twisty stuff in here. We're kind of following Rhett's car that has got away, is in 3rd place. It was a bit of a poor launch from the Hyundai that just didn't want to get started in all of this. The Alfa Romeo is having a look for a way past. It kind of tries to send it to the inside there, but there's never going to be an Alfa Romeo-sized gap in all of that. As we run down the hill, the BMW is out wide, and Mika's going to make a brave pass to the inside and is going to make that one stick. The BMW just running out of options and running out of room through there. It's a little bit wide through the next corner as well. At the front, it is still Impega putting the pressure on that Camaro, looking for a way past. Rusty you don't really have to worry about covering the inside through here too much. Although I say that, Rusty was very defensive through the next part, and then you see the problem is you're too tight on the inside through there. You're just slow on the exit. It is Impega's turn to get the good run and will move up into the lead of the race, but has carried too much speed and ended up in the wall, and that's going to cost both of them the place to the MX-5. Only the car in first place will make it through to the next round. Very similar to... I think it was actually Mika and Blakey that had a very similar accident in the tunnel. Like, you can get a good run into that tunnel and, trying to get that exit one. That Camaro's absolutely throwing it at the course, and that's going to run wide and bump the wall on the exit. Impega had the run, but on such a tight line, you've got to slow it down a little bit more through there. And, really easy place to get into trouble. The Camaro still was not giving up, but again, another... just unfortunate for, I think, Rusty's Camaro, a pretty fast vehicle, but just got in trouble in this one, got stuck battling, and trying to make up time, just overdrove it a little bit in this. That does mean Mika is going to take victory. The MX-5 will progress from the Spanner final. It was an exciting Spanner final. In the end, though, with the Giulia and Camaro coming to blows, it would give enough of a margin for the Mazda. So, on to the semi-finals. It would be the Pantera versus the Camry. Again, the cars, because of the spectate mode and the way we're launching these, the cars look a little bit jittery on the line. It's as fair as we can get it. Essentially, that is just how it is. After a good initial jump from the Pantera, the Camry would come flying past. Now, but we've seen Blakey was looking for a way past. You can already see Blakey is trying all sorts of... Basically, it's go wherever the other car isn't and look for an opportunity to get a better run. I think Blakey wanted to cut underneath on the exit there, but could not quite make it work. Has lost a little bit of ground, however, going to be able to catch some of that back up as the Camry slides wide and brushes the wall. The Toyota, it recovered from it relatively well as we barrel into these next quarters. Blakey carrying a lot of speed, had to check up a bit. Again, you're talking very fine margins here, and the Toyota would continue to be holding the lead and almost extend the lead until we get into the really, really twisty stuff. And this is where the smaller and lighter Pantera can really come into its own. The Toyota runs a little bit wide on the exit and just struggles to carry that momentum. Blakey going for a very wide line here, looking for a way to gain some momentum over the Toyota, although it's not quite going to be able to do all that much, and that's got a little bit too wide, trying to look for some pace. It's actually put the Toyota a little bit further away as we head towards the second of the critical hairpins, if you will. Gliska has run in a little bit too fast, and that's into the wall. Blakey's going to carry a good run there, and didn't touch the wall on the outside, and that is what the Pantera... I don't think it really mattered what side Gliska was going to go there. Just the brush of the wall, you could actually see how much time was lost just from that. I'll say momentum was lost from that equates to the time that was lost later on. The Pantera is into the final. A good run from Blakey. He was patient and waited for an opportunity to strike when they could in this one. The next of the semi-finals, we have got Longbow's Porsche versus Mika's MX-5. Both of these, the Porsche, both of these pretty grippy. The Porsche got a lot of grip going on, as you would expect. In this, the MX-5 is going to be very, very light. It is a close start between the pair of them as they roll through this first section. It means that if Longbow is going to take victory here, Longbow's going to have to do things the difficult way. I think actually my Cadillac's the only car that managed to get the lead from the left-hand side of the grid. I might be misremembering things, but the Porsche has got the grip through this section. So having the bigger, I say the bigger tyres, the better chassis, and all of that kind of thing. Not sure how much effect downforce is going to have on these cars. They're not going massively fast, but then also there's not really any. The drag's probably not a big thing either. Between the downforce will give you better grip through the corners, but in theory slow you down on the straights. However, it does rely on relative speeds. Don't know if they're going fast enough for it to really be all that effective, but the Porsche is definitely going to have a lot more of it going on in this as we head into the tunnel. And the Mazda has managed to fend off the Porsche so far. Longbow looking for a way past. That looks a bit fast in there for the MX-5. It just ran a little bit wide, and the Porsche has got a good run. The Mazda was not able to cover that one off. The Porsche is going to move itself up into the lead of the race. Can Longbow get it across to take the line they want into the hairpin? They can, although the Mazda's going to fire back down the inside immediately. Mika kind of had to go for that one. Still, the Porsche's got a great run on the exit there. I'm surprised the momentum the Porsche has managed to get on that wider line, having had a clonk on the way into that corner, was not quite expecting the momentum there for the 911, but it has been able to keep it up. The Mazda's got a good run, though, going on towards the next hairpin. The MX-5 has found some speed going there. Longbow goes across to cover. That could be a problem on the exit if Longbow doesn't get it right. Oh, Mika's got in too fast. The MX-5 will brush the wall on the exit, and now the Porsche can begin to pull away. Actually, Longbow's got a very shallow line on the way into that hairpin, which I say I'm kind of surprised of. I guess they were expecting the Mazda to have another dive if they hadn't gone a bit defensive through there. And in the end, that is going to be that. The Mazda put up a very, very good fight in the end, though. The Porsche just a little bit too strong. Longbow will cross the line, and that will be the Porsche into the final. A very good race between the pair of them. And we head to the third of the semi-finals. We have got my Cadillac, the biggest and heaviest thing left in the tournament, up against Stevie's Pontiac. I don't know what car I would have wanted to face in this one, to be honest with you. We get the Cadillac rolling, we get the Cadillac underway quite nicely here, because we get a lot of momentum going on, and there are parts of the course the Cadillac is very strong on, and as I said, we've got big tyres with the wide body kit on. However, handling is probably not the best, let's face it, with the big barge. However, if it is ahead, which we have got, we can try and be a bit defensive as we go through here, but that's a little bit too wide. The only advantage is Stevie can't really make the most of it. As we head through this next section, we can keep the Cadillac in front. We can keep making it awkward. Again, ran a little bit too deep through here. Will the Firebird be able to do anything? Not quite. I don't think Stevie was in the right place to look for a way past. We will let the car roll through this next section. Again, just be neat and tidy. I don't want to take that tight line through here. We want to try and keep up the speed if we can. It's a little wide and a little brush on. We were relatively fast on the way into that section. However, that little running wide moment on the exit puts us in danger, although not immediate danger. Stevie's not going to be able to look for a way past. We can chuck the car in between the two tunnels and try and build up some momentum, build up some pace again. Once we get going, the Cadillac's not too bad. We have got to try and deal with the hairpin, though, which is where we might be not quite so strong. Get the big Cadillac slowed down through here. It might have been a little bit too slow, and Stevie's got a good run. We'll try and encourage Stevie to the outside there as much as possible, but the Firebird has just got enough momentum on the exit of that one. It's not completely over for us. There are still opportunities for us, of course, as we will loop our way towards the next one. Really could do with the Firebird making a mistake into this next corner, if at all possible. Stevie turns in. We're hoping for it running wide. Actually looks quite neat and tidy for the Firebird, and it will be fairly similar for us. And then it's not going to be enough. Now, we are quick at the bottom of the course, but we need to be closer, essentially. We can be quick through this section. It's a good run through the final hairpin. I say a good run through the final hairpin. It was a little bit. We're trying to reel in. There's nothing you can do at this point. Gravity has just got to do its work through here. We will try and make the most of the opportunities we can with the Cadillac, and for whatever it is closing. We are closing the gap on Stevie, but it's going to be too little, too late. The Cadillac has its strengths, but we just were not quite good enough in the head. Or perhaps the car was, and I just took the wrong line. Either way, was no match for Stevie. That'll be the Firebird into the final. I say slightly disappointed. We did all right with a bigger state car, so happy enough with that. And finally, we have the final. It is the Firebird versus the Pantera versus the Porsche. Probably, I say no big surprises almost going into this one. It is side by side between the leaders. The Porsche trying to make it stick through there. It's not quite going to work, and because they're fighting, so with it being a 3-car race, now things become a little bit more challenging because Stevie wants to have a go to the inside but can't quite do it. If you've got 2 cars fighting for position, they're going to be slowing each other down even more than normal. So the car that's not being slowed down by being in a battle can potentially take advantage. It could be bad if Blakey escapes away at the front with the Pantera and these two get stuck in a battle for a second. Oh, that's a Porsche gone very deep through there and it's made contact with the Pantera. That's put the Di Tommaso sideways. Stevie is going to take full advantage of that one. It will be the Firebird that jumps to the lead of the race, and that is what you can do when you sort of sit back and watch it a bit. Porsche, maybe bump the inside wall. I think Stevie might have bumped the outside wall on the run through that one. Blakey has just got to, well, we've seen the Pantera be quick in the twisty bits, so Blakey's just got to be a little bit patient down here. Longbow can send the Porsche in between the tunnels. Pantera is still back there. Is the Porsche going to be close enough to have a dive? Will Longbow think about it into the hairpin, or more likely try and... No, has kind of gone for it. Problem is, yeah, when you go for that one, you're just going to lose a bunch of time. Wants to try and corral Stevie to the inside, but there's nothing you can do. The Firebird is there, and the more they battle, this is allowing Blakey to catch back up, and the Firebird has got it, although it might well have brushed the Armco, not sure where. Pantera's at a bad time somewhere. That's fallen back. I was expecting that to be closer. Still they go nose to tail. If anything, now the Porsche's got a little bit more of a run, but is going to have to go do things the hard way. Stevie is going to cover that inside run. Both are going a little bit wide. Stevie bumps the wall. Lombow's gone wide, but still going to have more speed than the Firebird on this one. The thing that's got a lot of momentum is the Pantera. Coming up that hairpin, the Pantera has actually got a really, really good run. They're still fighting for the lead. This could go. This could play very nicely into Blakey's hands. You had an incredibly clean run through that section. Will it be enough? The Porsche is still leading. The Firebird a little compromised coming out of that hairpin. Did Longbow go on the brakes through there? That surprised me. There's a fairly straightforward flat-out corner as we head towards, a bit of a desync, head towards the final turn. It's just about going to be a Porsche. Yeah, it's going to go the way of the Porsche. The Firebird third. It's Blakey caught at the end. Unlucky for Blakey in that one. Got tangled up with the Porsche early on. I don't quite know what happened out of the first of the hairpins because it's suddenly a lot further back, and really, really caught at the end as Longbow and Stevie would be fighting in that one. That's a hell of a final. That's a hell of a final round from all three contestants. However, it will be the Porsche that'll take victory on the Fujimi Soapbox. And there you have it. An interesting Soapbox tournament, for sure, in this one. We've done Soapbox racing in the past on various games. And there's always been a little bit of a mystery as to what has made fast vehicles in the past. Things that you would expect to be fast sometimes haven't. Things you'd expect to be terrible sometimes have been really good. Turns out, yeah, the Porsche, that was the way to go. All of these vehicles were A-class cars. You could modify them however you saw fit, and the grippy Porsche was the one to have. I went a different route with a Cadillac. I was remembering the times we've done this before when things, I think it was a Jaguar XE, was unbelievably good at one of these a little while back. So I went for something a little bit bigger and heftier, with a bit of hope. And yeah, it didn't quite work out the way that I wanted it to, but it was a lot of fun. And I have to say, of the Soapbox racing we've done, this is one of the most entertaining, one of the best courses we've had for it, and some of the closest racing we've had for the Soapbox cars. So yeah, was a lot of fun. I think the grippy cars were the more conventional grippy cars, things like the Porsche, the Mazda, Pantera, etc. were the way to go. But you know, there could be some interesting racing along the way. That though is going to be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.